Look, good evening, councillors, good evening, staff members, good evening, members of the public here in the gallery, and I know there's about at least 20 next door, probably a few more coming in for those who are coming in now. Please, we're obviously live streaming next door. I know there were some concerns just raised next door about not being able to come in here, but as I'm sure you can understand, we're limited in this capacity. It is a direct link next door, so you're on about a 1 or 2 second delay. Before I do get started, I obviously just need to take some time to acknowledge the passing of our Deputy Mayor and dear friend, Treslen Smith. Now, Treslen always told me to prepare some speeches, and I never ever did that, but I think it is very important right now that what I need to say is be said. So if you'll please indulge me for a few moments, I have written a few things down which I'd like to read to you. Most people here tonight would have known Treslen in some way. Of course, most commonly as elected member and deputy mayor, but her influence and contribution across our community was so much greater than that. Her long and successful career in consumer protection, something that she was still regularly receiving phone calls about for support and advice only up until a few weeks ago. Her presence and commitment to Bunbury's arts, culture and heritage scene, something she would remind me about on every opportunity. Her incredible commitment to our community through our countless boards, committees and community groups. There are so many organisations around today that Treslen played a big part in either setting up, working with or building up through her continued support and that commitment. Treslen cared deeply about Bunbury, our community and all the people who call it home. She brought that passion and commitment every time she walked into this chamber. When she was here, she spoke her mind. She asked questions and she stood up strongly for what she believed in. Whether you agree with that or not, you always knew that Treslen was doing what she genuinely believed was in the best interest of our city and our community. We have seen tributes flow in from Bunbury and beyond over the last few weeks. Letters, emails and social media has been filled with praise and memories of how Treslen positively impacted so many people. I hope her family have been able to see that love and support, and they know how important and special she was to so many people. Personally, Treslen became not just a great deputy mayor to me, but a true and dear friend. We may have been at very different stages of our life, and dare I say it, had some fairly different views on some topics, but we had the utmost respect for each other. I valued her advice, her support, her honesty, and most importantly, her friendship. I will miss her dearly. On behalf of the council, our staff and the Bunbury community, I again extend our deepest condolences to Treslen's family, particularly her children Matthew, Nicholas and Penny. There was also a note in from the Bunbury Harvey Regional Council, which I might just ask the CEO to read.
Thanks, Mayor. This message comes from CEO Nick Edwards and Chair Wendy Dickinson of the BHRC. On behalf of the Bunbury Harvey Regional Council, councillors and staff, we express our condolences and sense of loss of Deputy Mayor Councillor Treslen Smith for the City of Bunbury and its community. Treslen was a passionate advocate for BHRC whose commitment and support went well beyond expectations, especially in recent times. She has significantly helped stabilise our organisation, providing impactful advice that benefited ratepayers in the Harvey and Bunbury local government areas. During her service as a council delegate, chair and vice chair of BHRC, she was always engaged, enthusiastic and committed to work to getting BHRC back on track. She advocated strongly where we truly needed it and worked collaboratively with others to find the best possible outcomes. Treslen was always approachable, generous with her time and willing to provide assistance and support when it was needed. Her sharp intellect enabled her to see beyond the immediate issue and brought nuance and beneficial solutions that were not always immediately obvious. We deeply appreciated Treslen's unwavering dedication to her family and recognise the profound impact on them of their recent loss. We are extremely grateful for the family that provided such a strong foundation that enabled both her and David to contribute so much to our communities. We feel incredibly fortunate to have known Treslin and enjoyed her company immensely. She remained positive even in the most challenging circumstances, and it was an honour and privilege to work alongside her. She will be greatly missed by all who had the pleasure of knowing and working with her. We're grateful for her dedication, her wisdom, her friendship, and the lasting contribution she made to BHRC and our community. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. If you're able to, I'll be just asking if we could all stand for a moment's silence in Tresli's memory. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. And as I said last week, and as I spoke with Treslin's family, she very much would want us to continue and do what we need to do. And we've started that process, and through the Local Government Act, there are backfilling provisions within local government, and that process has happened. And very happy to say that on Friday I swore in Councillor Michelle Steck, welcoming back Councillor Steck under the Local Government Act. We've done that. So for many people know, Councillor Steck had been on council for 17 years here in Bunbury, so very well adapt to local government. But please welcome and join me, Councillor Steck, back to the room. Thank you. We will, also through the Local Government Act, we do need to appoint a Deputy Mayor. We do that at the first order of business, so as I get into the agenda, we will be doing that, and it's required for us to do that first. I know most people here are probably here for the Beach Road item, so again, we will need to work through that process first, and then I'll be bringing your item to the next item of agenda, but you'll have to stay with us while we work through that Deputy Mayor election. Thank you. So, tonight's attendance, we're all here, and there are no approved leaves, of course. I have received two declarations of interest, Councillor Brown and Councillor Kozisek. They are impartial interests, but I understand both Councillor Brown and Councillor Kozisek has sought advice on whether or not they'll be in the room, and they haven't received any advice. So, Councillor Brown and Councillor Kozisek, do you indicate you'll be leaving the room for that item? Okay, and Yep, for the public's knowledge and this knowledge, they have been seeking advice whether or not they will be in the room or not, but they have not received that as yet, so to take the approach to leave the room. So, councillors and members of the public question time, we have received several questions. I understand a few of them are happy to take theirs as noticed, starting with Mr. Dillon. Tom Dillon, you're happy to take yours as noticed, and we'll write formally back to you, and I think they're there, but we appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks for your questions. Mr. Chris Phillips, and if anyone is in the room next door who is asking questions, or we'll get to deputations at the moment, obviously we will invite you here as well. Is Chris is here? Thank you, Chris. So if you're able to ask your three questions, thanks, Chris. I know, and I'll defer these to the CEO, I think most of these. He may have responses, but I think some of those he's needing some more advice on, but we'll go through those. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. Despite the serious process flaws the community has exposed, can the CEO please explain the risk the City of Bunbury may be exposed to if elected members vote tonight to sell 89 Beach Road? Secondly, as it is not set out in the report, can the CEO please duly set out alternative recommendations for the future of 89 Beach Road, including the option to protect in perpetuity the land's recognised community, environmental, recreation and open space values, removing ability to try and sell the land again in the future? And question 3, has the advice of the Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions, DBCA, been sought about the environmental values of 89 Beach Road and the impact these may have on development feasibility since its predecessor reported around 2015? And if so, what has been considered, and why was this information not included in the public notice or in the 89 Beach Road Council report? If it has not been sought, why? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Phillips. CEO, do you have responses for those?
Thank you, Mayor. As you've already disclosed, I will probably make some brief comments, but there will be fuller responses included in the minutes. In relation to question one, apart from what's already been included in the reports, I'm not aware of any legal or other issues that the elected members are not aware of as part of the information that they've been provided. In relation to question two, the future of Beach Road will be dependent on the decision, and it may well be part of Council's consideration tonight. In relation to question three, we have sought the advice of the Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions. It's important to note that any further assessment will be part of any development application. So whatever development application, if that comes forward, that there will be further assessment by the department. The public notice is not required to include that information. We've had numerous reports have been provided around this matter that has included that information, but the public notice is not required to include the information in question three. Thank you.
Thank you. And as again, those full answers will be responded to you as well. Thank you, Mr Phillips. Gregory Smith, Ms Smith.
I've been told by the City of Bunbury Engineering Works that the matter of the footpath next to 89 Beach Road, South Bunbury, has been referred to the Economic Development Team. Why? It is also evident that 89 Beach Road property boundary dissects part of the footpath on the northern end near Beach Road. I've also been told that the city has two options to rectify this. One was to pull up the portion of the footpath and realign appropriately right next to the boundary. Two was to take a portion of the land so that the existing footpath could remain as is. I was not given a definitive answer, so what are the details? What options have been considered? And why was this information not included in the public notice and in the 89 Beach Road Council report?
Thank you, Mr Smith. CEO, do you have a response to that?
Thanks, Mayor. Again, a fuller response in the minutes. I'm not aware of what advice has been given by the engineering department, and I wouldn't have thought it's a matter for the economic development team. As I said earlier, any changes to the existing footpath or the safe crossover over Beach Road would be subject to a development application. Those matters are considered as part of a normal planning process.
Thank you, CEO. Anne-Marie Bergman.
Good evening. At the 11th August briefing session, a resident questioned whether the public notice for 89 Beach Road meets the Local Government Act and if the final report fairly reflects the 210 public submissions. My question is to CEO Alan Ferris. How does this proposed sale align with good governance under our local laws? And how does it respect our community's clear wishes? Thank you.
CEO.
Thanks, Mayor. Again, all of the information, my job is as CEO is to provide the information to elected members to make an informed decision, which they will do tonight. The end of the day, the good governance is around decision making, and that's a matter for council to consider tonight.
Thank you, CEO. And Jane Merriweather. Jane.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. To be valid, Section 3.58 of the Local Government Act 1995 requires a public notice of the proposed disposal of land to include several pieces of information. Subsection 3.584C states that the public notice must include the market value of the disposition as determined by valuation. The required market valuation for 89 Beach Road was not included in the first public notice published in the Bunbury Herald on the 7th of July. A stated valuation of $850,000 was added to the second public notice published on the 14th of July and was subsequently added to the city's website. This required valuation information was therefore not available for the duration of the minimum 14-day public notice period. So can the CEO please explain how this complies with the requirements of the Local Government Act 1995? My second question, the report concerning the proposed disposal of 89 Beach Road states that a valuation range of $810,000 to $880,000 was obtained. No valuation report has been made publicly available. The valuation added partway through the public notice period stated a valuation of $850,000, so I note that that's not the midpoint of the valuation range. So can the CEO please explain how this valuation information complies with the requirements of the Local Government Act 1995? My third question, has the advice of the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation been sought concerning potential contamination and development feasibility of 89 Beach Road? And if so, what are the details of that advice? What development options have been considered? And why was this information not included in the public notice or in the council report relating to 89 Beach Road? Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. CEO, do you have responses to those?
Probably a bit of question 1 and 2. Mayor, elected members are aware of the matters that have been raised around the valuation, and they have also, just to correct a couple of things, the city's website has always contained the correct information. That on the 7th, when we was aware that the stated valuation was included, that was included on the 7th. So for the whole period, the whole 14-day period, that was included. The valuation information does comply with the requirements of the Local Government Act. We are required to get a valuation, which we did, and elected members have considered that as part of a separate report about whether to continue with the sale of this property. In relation to question 3, again, that's been subject to previous reports. The elected members have that information around the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation and the geotech report that was previously provided some months ago. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Thank you for your questions. Moving on to confirmation of the previous minutes. Do we have somebody who have moved that the ordinary council meeting the 28th of July was true and correct? Thank you, Councillor Kozisek. Councillor Ramesh. All those in favour, please indicate. That's carried, thank you. And the minutes from the special council meeting on the same night, the 28th of July. Somebody happy to move they are true and accurate? Thank you, Councillor Kozisek. Second by Councillor Ramesh. Those in favour, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. I don't believe we've received any petitions. Councillors, no petitions received. Thank you. There are a number of deputations there, all on the same item. I'll put that those are all heard. Those in favour, please indicate. That's carried. So for those who are making deputations, when we get to that item, we'll invite you along. As I said, we'll be dealing with one item first, and then we will be moving to that item. So, method of dealing, I've just outlined what we'll be doing in that regard, but there's a few other items coming out for discussion tonight. Clearly 10.2.1, which we'll deal with first, 10.4.2 and 10.4.3 at this stage are the ones coming out for discussion, although I note that the 10.4.1 has an updated executive recommendation, so I might just note that we'll take out 10.4.1 as well, which is the updated parking strategy. Is there any others coming out for discussion? If that's the case, could I have the remainder, the other 3 items be moved en bloc? Thank you, Councillor Brown, second by Councillor Kozisek. I'll put that. Those in favour, please indicate. Thank you. So, councillors and members of the public, the first item we will be dealing with is the vote for Deputy Mayor, and then we'll go on to the Beach Road item after this. There has been, at this stage, those 6 elected members nominate for the role. Before I go any further, is there any other nominations from the 2 other members of council? No problem. So there are 6 nominations. So I just...
Yeah, I'd
Okay.
like to nominate Councillor Ramesh.
Do you accept, Councillor Ramesh? Okay. Thank you. So councillors and probably members of the public as well, there is a bit of a graph there next to you, which you may or may not be able to read, and I might just, while they're setting up, because I'll be asking both the CEO and the Manager of Governance to run this election and become the officers, the returning officers. Effectively, what will happen, this is a vote, a preferential vote is this, and it is optional preferential voting. So again, this is for elected members. This is not first past the post. You vote, you can vote 1 time, you can vote 2 times, you can vote 3 times. When I say 3 times, you can obviously list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or you can vote 1. What occurs if there is no candidate who gets 5 votes on the first election roll, the lowest vote getter will be removed from the count, and if they have a preference vote, that preference vote will obviously then be counted. That process will continue until there's 5 votes. If somebody doesn't use a preference vote, their preference is then excluded, and obviously the total number of 50% plus 1 would reduce. So, for example, if 2 people were removed and they didn't preference anybody, that vote would then be out of 7, and you would require 4 votes to become Deputy Mayor. I'm trying to explain that because I've been reading this for some time, and I hope that you may understand that. But effectively, I'll be now appointing the CEO and the Manager of Governance to conduct the election for the Deputy Mayor, which elected members will vote on. So, before I actually ask them to do that, and part of that thing is giving the elected members the opportunity to present their case on why they should be voted for. So the Manager and Governance CEO can get organised on what they need to do, and I'll run them in the list in front of me, I think is probably the fairest way. Sorry if somebody wanted to go first, but I think they're listed in front of me and that'll be fine. So Councillor Cheryl Kozisek, you have 5 minutes. You can stand or sit, whatever each member would like to do. There's no requirement on that. Even though it says standing orders, there's nothing in the standing orders about standing.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, it has been and continues to be a tremendous honour to serve on the Bunbury City Council. Over the past 7 years, I've had the privilege of working alongside a group of hard-working, dedicated councillors, all committed to achieving the same outcome, a prosperous, welcoming and vibrant Bunbury, a city that is a great place to live and work and a safe place for our families. When I was first elected, I came onto council as one of those ratepayers who did not fully trust local government and certainly did not understand the machinations and complexity of an organisation the size of Bunbury, and just how difficult it is at times to get things done. What I quickly learned was that meaningful outcomes are rarely achieved by one person alone. Each of us has one voice and one vote, and the best results come when we work together, respect differing opinions and focus on the bigger picture. I also learned just how fortunate we are to have an outstanding team of directors and staff. Without their expertise, professionalism and commitment, none of our achievements would be possible. Prior to being elected, I, with a group of like-minded retailers, founded the Retail Co in 2018 to support and nurture small, locally owned business in the CBD. Our first task was to successfully advocate for the removal of paid parking and the meters, as this was driving our customers and shoppers out to areas where you did not have to pay to park and shop. Over the next 7 years as a councillor, I have served on many committees and am currently Chair of the Policy and Review Committee, Chair of the Heritage Advisory Committee. These roles have given me a broad understanding of the city's governance, strategic direction and operational challenges. I also sit on the Audit and Risk Committee, the CBD Activation Working Group, the CEO Performance Committee, the Bragg Working Group, the Regional Development Assessment Panel, Council-appointed member on the Bragg Acquisition Panel, currently proxy to the Bunbury Harvey Regional Council, plus the council representative on the Stirling Street Arts Centre Board, previously chair. Tomorrow morning I'm going to Perth, leaving at 5:30, which is going to be really difficult in the morning, giving a deputation as President of the Retail Co to the West Australian Planning Commission, advocating to keep Bunnings in Bunbury, asking the Commission to not only consider the merits of the proposed development, but also the broader economic strategic impacts on Bunbury and the businesses that have invested here for decades. Outside of council, I own and operate an interior design business, which provides me with the flexibility to dedicate the time required to fulfil my council responsibilities, and if elected, the responsibilities of Deputy Mayor. I am humbled at having the opportunity to nominate for Deputy. Following Trestlin may be daunting and some big shoes to fill, but I learnt a lot from Trestlin in our 7 years of working together. I greatly admired the strong partnership she had with our Mayor. Together they brought complementary expertise to our council leadership team. It is a strong partnership that I would like to continue, as I believe that I have an excellent working relationship with our Mayor and CEO and the executive team. Bringing complementary skills to a leadership team which, along with the councillors, will navigate the next stage of our growth. It is important to understand the role of a councillor in supporting council decisions and leave operational matters to the CEO. As Deputy, I hope to be able to strengthen and enhance the lines of communication from the top down. Our Mayor is a very busy man, and I will, as Deputy, support Jason and his very able team to communicate to councillors and keep them abreast of things happening. While our council numbers may have reduced, our commitment to Bunbury has not. We will not always agree, nor should we. Healthy debate is an important part of good governance. What matters is that we respect one another, listen to differing viewpoints and remain focused on serving our community. Bunbury's strengths lie in planning for our future and working together as a team. We can be the drivers of our economy, and in doing so we'll be in a better position to help all of our ratepayers. You've heard me say this before, but a rising river takes everyone with it. Under Mayor Miguel and CEO Alan Ferris, we, all of us, have achieved so much. Our leadership has a vision for Bunbury, and I, like you, want to play an integral part in making that vision a reality. A vibrant city offering a lifestyle envied by many, a robust economy, a thriving CBD, amazing sporting facilities. Let's add in an ocean pool and a world-class art gallery, enliven and activate the Bicentennial Square, and so much more.
There are 5 minutes there, Councillor Kozak. I'll just allow you to summarise, but...
Just got one last thing to finish, if I may. I'd like to just finalise with a speech that Theodore Roosevelt delivered in the Sorbonne in Paris in 1910, and I think it sums up everyone who puts up their hand for public office. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls, neither know victory nor defeat. Thank you very much. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kozak. Oops. Councillor Turner.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and fellow councillors. 7 years ago, when I first stood up to debate, my voice was shaky and I was nervous. But I kept showing up, kept learning, and over time I found my confidence in my voice. Today, I'm proud to be seen as a leader amongst my peers, someone who speaks up and stands firm for what is right for Bunbury as a whole. Our former CEO, Mel, always encouraged us to be brave. And to me, that means having the courage to say what needs to be said, even when it's difficult, and having the tough decisions that may not be popular in the moment, but are necessary for Bunbury's long-term good. Trestlin Smith set a high standard as Deputy Mayor. She was experienced, steady and deeply respected across our community. Her support for the Mayor and commitment to this council were unwavering. I'm under no illusion that anyone could truly replace her. It would be an honour to build on her legacy by serving with the same dedication and integrity she showed every day. What I will bring to the role is my new unique approach, one centred on listening over speaking, cooperation over division, and treating public office as a responsibility to serve. I am well respected in the community, as shown by my strong support I received during my 2 campaigns. Each year on council, I strive to improve by learning from both my peers and our residents. I'm open-minded and I make it a priority to listen carefully and consider every point of view before making any decisions. I see the Deputy Mayor's role as the next step in my growth, an opportunity to represent our council whenever the Mayor is unavailable and to take on greater responsibility with the confidence and commitment I've built over the years. If given this opportunity, I will serve with the same dedication and honesty I've always brought to my role on council. Over the last few years, our council has evolved from 13 members down to 9, and every one of us has had to step up and take on more responsibilities and adapt to new challenges. We might not always agree, and sometimes we may underestimate each other.
Do you want to pause, Cass?
That's fine.
You can have a quick break. That's
Don't mind.
okay.
Did you get it? But
Should be sorry about that theme
that's
song.
fine. But I genuinely believe our greatest strength is in our diversity and our capacity to work together. Each of us have been chosen by the community for a reason. We all bring unique skills, perspectives and experience that make us stronger as a group. When we cooperate and respect each other, each person, what they have to offer, we achieve our best outcomes for Bunbury. I understand there may be questions about my availability, given my commitment to aged care. The reality is I choose to work those hours, but I have complete flexibility to adjust my schedule if I'm selected for this role. My track record on council speaks for itself. Over the past 7 years, I've demonstrated exceptional time management and maintained an outstanding attendance record. If chosen as Deputy Mayor, I will bring the same dedication and reliability to this position. As we look ahead, I believe our most strategic decisions must be grounded in fiscal responsibility, transparent community engagement and proactive planning. I'm committed to ensuring every dollar in our budget delivers real value, supporting economic growth and job creation and investing in the infrastructure that keeps Bunbury moving forward. By working closely with the community and our regional partners, we can make strategic choices that secure a vibrant, sustainable future for our city. Mayor, I want to acknowledge your leadership and assure you and all councillors that if I'm chosen as Deputy Mayor, I will support you and represent your council, our council, with loyalty and professionalism. My focus will be on unity, collaboration and making practical decisions, and I'm committed to serving all of you in our community with transparency, teamwork and service Bunbury's deserve. I ask for your support. Should you not have me as the first choice, can you please consider me for the first vote? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Councillor Brown.
Good evening, Mayor, councillors, staff and everyone in the 2 galleries tonight. We meet tonight under sombre circumstance. I'd first like to acknowledge the passing of Councillor Treslin Smith. Her dedication to Bunbury was evident to all of us. And while we're here to fill a vacancy, we do so with a deep respect for the service she provided to our city and this council. Personally, she was a friend of mine for over 30 years, and we went all the way back to the days of Department of Consumer Affairs. As many of you know, I stood before you less than a year ago to share my vision for the Deputy Mayor role. Because our time is short and the circumstances are unique, I won't repeat that full history tonight. However, my commitment to Bunbury remains unchanged. Born and raised here, I care deeply about our city and its future. My goal remains to provide a third pillar of leadership with the Mayor's financial knowledge and our CEO's administrative expertise. I offer over 40 years of practical, grounded knowledge in local development, property law and our city's rating system. In times of transition, I believe my 7 years of experience on this council and my history of building strong relationships across governments and community can provide the stability and opportunity we need to finish this term effectively. We have seen what we can achieve when we work together. Projects like the Hands Oval Stadium redevelopment are proof that we can turn ideas into reality. I'm ready to support the Mayor and the CEO and help this council make good strategic decisions our community deserves. I would be honoured to have your support to serve out the remainder of this term. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Marina-Quatten.
Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I acknowledge the gallery here and in the other room. This evening carries heaviness for us all. I'm deeply saddened to be standing here because the best outcome for our community would have been to have Treslin here still with us, continuing in her role as Deputy Mayor. Her passing has left a gap that cannot be filled easily. The community of Bunbury has been somewhat cheated by losing her leadership so suddenly. Treslin had a rare ability. She would work effectively with people from all walks of life. She listened deeply, she understood community views, and she always considered them in the best context of council's aims and objectives. Her capacity to earn the respect and the ear of leadership at all levels of government will be sorely missed. I chose to nominate this evening because Treslin was my mentor. She invested in me, she groomed me on how to speak with ministers and senior government officials, how to advocate with clarity and how to navigate complex issues and with respect and purpose, much of which I have achieved in community advocacy is a direct reflection on her guidance. I successfully championed in my volunteer roles for the following election commitments. 2017, $4 million for Hay Park. 2021 and 25, $25.7 million for our Hay Park Community Courts. And just recently, the $120,000 for the Bunbury Women's Club room restoration. These achievements were not about profile or politics, they were about delivering for Bunbury. They came from listening to the community groups, understanding their needs and working persistently with government for outcomes. I represent a diverse community groups and I am well connected across Bunbury's social, business, sporting, cultural and volunteer networks. That diversity of connection strengthens my ability to bring community voices into this chamber. I also want to share that I commenced my diploma in local government and the knowledge I'm gaining is already strengthening my understanding of fiscal responsibility, planning matters, statutory frameworks, meeting procedures and the responsibility of elected members. This learning will certainly aid me in the role as a Deputy Mayor and in my broader contribution to Council. In the same spirit of continuous improvement, I respectfully encourage other nominees and indeed all councils to please consider undertaking this diploma of local government. It provides contemporary practical governance knowledge and strengthens individual capacity and enhances the effectiveness of council as a whole. Plus you get to network with many councillors from all over the state and other LGAs and share common themes and benchmarks. Serving our community and contributing to our infrastructure is my agenda, nothing more. I want Bunbury to continue moving forward and I want to leave it in a better place, just as Tresland did. If given the opportunity to serve as Deputy Mayor, I will bring steadiness, fairness and a commitment to collaboration. I will work with every councillor respectively and constructively. I will support our Mayor, uphold our governance standards and ensure that the community voices remain central to our decision making. Council, I ask you to please give me the chance to continue the legacy of a woman who shaped me, shaped this council and shaped our city. I ask for the opportunity to collaborate with you and our community and achieve the best outcomes for Bunbury. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quain. I just had a message there just come from next door that drops in and out a little bit. So when you're speaking elected members, just speaking straight into the microphone so next door can hear as well. Councillor Gassop, which if you would like to remain seated, I know you bring it very close, but we'll get those longer sticks at some stage, Councillor Gassop.
One day. Mr Mayor, it is really unfortunate that we're doing this, and I'm here in a very reserved way, that we're doing this 2 days before a funeral. That person's been laid to rest. I have addressed this with a government minister, and I think the legislation should be changing. It's really inappropriate. So having said that, why am I nominating? Look, I really understand that Councillor Gabby Gassop becoming a Deputy Mayor is like a camel going through the eye of a needle. I really understand that. However, so I'll have to explain why I'm doing this, Mr Mayor. Just come back from a trip to Syria, my dad's ancestral home, and on the way into Damascus there was hundreds, if not thousands, of demolished buildings representing about 500,000 deaths in the civil war. Those people wanted democracy, and the authorities wouldn't listen to them. They killed them. That was. Now, further into Damascus, there was in Bab Tuma, one of the gates to Damascus, where the 10th Light Horse Brigade went through and overthrew the Ottoman Empire, which is a pretty ruthless empire. And we also visited a cemetery in Damascus where 250 Australian soldiers are buried. So why do I say that? Because I value democracy. I value the fact that I am here able to actually stand and nominate for such a position. No, I'm not going to get it. I understand that. But so, Mr Mayor, there's a Greek word, agape, which actually means the highest form of love, which is in essence means putting other people first. And that's what Tresland did, that's what David Smith did. And we knew them, they knew my parents well. I remember one night David Smith coming around when he was a minister, 2 a.m. in the morning, helping my dad apply for refugees for our relatives. They pulled them out of a very dangerous situation, saved their life. Of course, David and Tresland were a pair. They worked hard together, and they both were under extreme load trying to perform their duties to the community. I won't forget that. And so here we are, we're going to replace Tresland. The character that Tresland was, without degrading anybody, how are we going to replace that person that has shown so much dedication, selflessness, putting others first over decades, along with her husband? So, Mayor, I'm not going to ask people to vote for me. If anything, I'll be asking people to vote with their conscience. So vote for whoever you like, but please, if you consider voting with your conscience. So my skills, my shortcomings, everyone's gifted here, but what is in people's hearts, that's what drives us. What is your heart? Unfortunately, we can't really relate that to each other unless we're very intimate. But I do want to just, because things about attendance came up, and I think it's an opportunity now to clarify something that has occurred in the past. Now, Treslin warned me there was a group in the community, so it's nothing to do with council, so I'm not saying anything about council, led by an anti-Semitic, neo-Nazi, and they were trying to destroy people, including myself, right? And there was a relentless campaign to do that. They were working with organisations, and that led to myself being hospitalised a number of times and missed a few council meetings. Now, despite that, I did request to attend those meetings online, and because I wouldn't disclose the medical situation, the process couldn't be proceeded with. Now, despite all that, leading up to the last election, relentless attack, I went and door-knocked 3,500 homes and businesses. God gave me the strength to do that. I just wanted to say that, just to set the record straight, because there was a lot of attempts to tarnish some people's reputations. So, Mr. Mayor, this agape, the highest form of love, means putting other people first. And that, I really believe, is not just what drove Treslin and David, but it drives every single one of us here, every single volunteer in the community that does selfless service. So, Mr. Mayor, I'll just sum up by saying, look, fully understand Gabby Gassup's not going to become Deputy Mayor, but I've had my say. I've exercised my right to democracy. I feel very strong about democracy where if I speak and you speak and you completely disagree with me, I'll defend your right to say what you say, as long as it's respectable, to the death. That is agape, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gassup. And lastly, Councillor Steck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like everyone else in this room, I have a very heavy heart for taking the position from Treslin. She was a dear friend of mine also. She got on council to assist with bullying towards me. She'll be dearly, dearly missed, I know that. The reason I'm putting my hand up for Mayor, for Deputy Mayor, Mr. Mayor, is because...
A few years' time, Councillor Steck.
No. I just want to say that I've put up more motions on notice. I did the Economic Development Committee, Tourism Committee, got rid of that diabolical powerboat club. There's a member in the audience that knows that I helped raise the bridge, the Whalebone Bridge, and by crikey, that was a big job. So I just want to thank councillors for their time, thank the gallery, because without participation in our community, we'd be a dreary lot, that's for sure. I also just want to say that, Mr. Mayor, you know that I'm probably quite innovative with discussion sometimes. You know I'm very passionate. Sometimes that can come over as a little bit aggressive, but you know damn well that when I'm in the room with you or anyone else, I'll be very passionate, but outside the room, I will give unity. And I think you all know that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Steck. So, turn that off. So, members of the public, we have the process to run now. I'll be asking the elected members to vote on the ballots in front of us. As I said, it is optional preferential voting. You can vote 1, you can vote 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many times you would like in that regard. We'll do that, and I'll now refer over to the CEO and Manager of Governance to conduct that election. Sure. Yep. So the Manager of Governance has just indicated that obviously rather than stopping and pausing to do bits and pieces, they've got the system in front of them. They'll be accumulating votes, and obviously they'll be then doing the preference voting through that process. So. Yeah, just mics off as well, councillors. This will take a few minutes, councillors and members of the public, so please bear with us for this process. So if you have to eliminate one, so obviously at that stage there's 2 people on 2 votes. There's no person on the lower vote. So it's a random draw.
So they just got to run through the process again, and they're not going to say.
I think you just said just to go through. Yeah. Got a result? Sure. Sure. On the table, sure. So, thank you, councillors. Thank you, members of the public, for that. And the process that's just been run there, the primary votes and the distribution will be highlighted in the minutes. But I will announce that the Deputy Mayor is Councillor Cheryl Kozisek. So, Councillor Kozisek, you need to read that. Oh.
I, Cheryl Kozisek of 8 Farnell Street, South Bunbury, having been elected to the office of Deputy Mayor of the City of Bunbury, declare that I take the office upon myself and will duly, faithfully, honestly, and with integrity fulfil the duties of the office for the people in the district according to the best of my judgment and ability, and will observe the Code of Conduct adopted by the City of Bunbury under Section 5.104 of the Local Government Act 1995.
Please welcome me, join me in congratulating Deputy Mayor. Okay, congratulations to Cheryl, and thank you for all those nominations, and thank you, members of the public, for your patience during that process. We will now go to the item which I indicated before, the Beach Road item, which is item 10.4.2. There are several deputations. Do we have those up?
Excuse me, Mayor, we're going to do 10.4.1?
We'll come back to it. I did indicate that we'll deal with 10.4.2 first, given I think most people are here for that item. So we'll deal with this particular item first, and then we needed to go back to 10.4.1 afterwards, but I think they've been very patient, so we will deal with this item. I do know that one of these members is next door, and when we get to them, we'll get them to come in as well. Chris Phillips is first up. So deputations, those many people may be aware of the process. Deputations, this is not an opportunity for a back and forth or questions. This is your opportunity. You have 10 minutes to make your deputations, to state your case, whether in support or against the particular item. So I'll ask Mr. Phillips to come and join us first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and councillors. It's a great honour to speak to you.
Sorry, one note as well. I just want to check this microphone because that was one of the things that's saying the speakers. That microphone's working. You can take it. It is. Yep. So just if we're speaking into that microphone to make sure we can hear next door as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I have references for the points that I'm to make tonight, but I don't have the time to give you those references. But I've prepared a paper which is available to you. Which is going to be accessible to you. I'm the chair of Green Teeth South West Inc. and have been for about 15 years and a member of the Regional Urban Greening Group, and congratulations to our CEO and the staff of the City of Bunbury because they've been wonderful partners with the Regional Urban Greening Group in planting 2 pocket forests. The essence of what I want to say tonight is that we are in a parlous situation environmentally around the world, and that comes from the United Nations Intergovernmental Panels on Climate Change and on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, and also the naturalist Sir David Attenborough. And we need to have transformative changes which involve not only turning to renewable sources of energy, but relevantly to conserving our biodiversity and rewilding. And I recommend that Council consider not only not allowing this sale to go ahead at 89 Beach Road, but to plant native gardens to enhance the biodiversity of that land at 89 Beach Road. The Western Australian Government in May 2022 published a native vegetation policy in which it acknowledged the points that I've just made. Looking just at species extinction, there's been a decline of 73% since 1970 of mammals, birds, fish, reptiles and amphibians across the world. Australia has lost more mammal species than any other continent. More than 100 Australian species are listed as extinct or extinct in the wild. And the causes for this are habitat loss, fragmentation and degradation, and of course also invasive species and diseases, and in particular, more recently, climate change. 40% of the world's insect species now face extinction. 28 Australian frog species are facing extinction. I'm not going to go on because the list is endless of the problems we're facing. Relevant to 89 Beach Road, the Western Forest red-tailed black cockatoo, the Carnaby's white-tailed black cockatoo and the Western ring-tailed possum are all threatened with extinction and are known to frequent this area. In addition, the southwestern snake-necked turtle is near threatened, and these snake-necked turtles from the Big Swamp Bird Park have been known to utilise 89 Beach Road for laying their eggs. We all have a duty to ensure that our children and grandchildren and future generations can enjoy all our endangered or near endangered unique species in perpetuity. The importance of Big Swamp Bird Park and 89 Beach Road, our local bird expert Sue Caleb told me that there is 109 different bird species that have been spotted at the Big Swamp Bird Park. So it's a wonderful ecological asset. Now, turning to 89 Beach Road, there are 28 trees growing on this block, and these are not just local natives, but they include broader WA species, interstate species, still Australian natives, but also exotics. Now, what the literature is saying is we must preserve tree canopy cover that we have. Some of the trees on this block are so high that it would take many decades to achieve the same advantages delivered by these trees, including cooling, moisture and oxygen production, carbon sequestration. Remembering carbon sequestration is absolutely vital in fighting climate change. Although when we plant new forest, we should strive for local native vegetation, we can't afford to lose the advantages of mature woodland that comprises mixed origin species. Further, there's a crucial role of corridors in conserving and protecting 30% of our native biodiversity, because it allows native fauna to make its way safely, in this case between Big Swamp Bird Park and the Tree Street area. On a planetary scale, climate change is caused by two things: the emission of greenhouse gases, which you know, but many people don't know. It's also by deforestation. This global warming has resulted, as you all know, in increasing severity, duration and frequency of drought, fires, floods, storms, heat waves. Now the list is endless in terms of rising sea levels, loss of ice, death of our coral reefs and so on. Now, path forward. If we're to achieve a livable planet for future generations, we have to achieve a goal to protect and conserve 30% of the planet's lands, inland waterways, they're both critical in this instance, and oceans by 2030. This is the 30 by 30 target, and this has been adopted by the Australian government, and a national 30 by 30 roadmap was adopted by all states and territories in 2024. In addition to reaching 30%, guidelines for the roadmap say our networks of protected and conserved areas need to, among other things, support important biodiversity, such as we're doing at 89 Beach Road right now with those trees that are there, and also be well connected, among other things. Wildlife corridors are critical to support our remaining wetlands. So there are two measures that we need to address species extinction, decline in the abundance of species and global warming, and they are reduce fossil fuel emissions and conserve the ecology that we have, and to rewild. So, and the International Panel on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services says marine and terrestrial ecosystems are the sole substantive sinks of anthropogenic, man-made carbon emissions. Now, there are several scientific articles I've read recently saying that over 80% of Western Australia's wetlands have been lost since European settlement. So that just lets you know just how vital this wetland is, the Big Swamp Bird Park, and it highlights the essential protection of the bird park and its surrounds, including 89 Beach Road. Climate change in the southwest, the annual rainfall in the southwest in cool seasons has dropped because of climate change from 1975. It's decreased between 10 and 30%, and that's from Professor Don McFarlane and several others in a journal of the Royal Society of WA. He's at UWA, and he says that both runoff and recharge reduce about 3 times for any unit reduction in rainfall. It follows that a 20% reduction in rainfall causes a 60% reduction in runoff to dams and recharge of aquifers. So we're now looking at it being absolutely critical to preserve those trees, such as at 89 Beach Road. Now, in terms of best practice for Australian cities, a 30% canopy target is best practice around Australia. Victoria and New South Wales have adopted it. Perth and Adelaide have chosen to utilise that as the target. The City of Bunbury has, I'm told, 17% tree canopy cover, and I recommend that the city adopt a 30% canopy cover in the first instance, but that with other progressive councils in Australia, the ultimate aim should be 40% canopy cover, and I understand Hobart has 59% canopy cover. Recreational and tourism use, as the planners must have intended in designing the lovely welcome to the Big Swamp Bird Park on the wall at 89 Beach Road. The block with its trees and parkland provides a lovely segue to passers-by, inviting attendance at the wetland from Beach Road. The city officers have informed me that the environmental value of 89 Beach Road was assessed by a predecessor of DBCA in 2015 and found to have no significant environmental grounds for retention. But my point here is the report in 2015 is irrelevant as it fails to address the issues now confronting us 11 years later. And note that the adoption of the WA Government's native vegetation policy in 2024 and the 30 by 30 roadmap both are well after that 2015 consideration. But further, if the assessor has failed to take into account our turtles, our red-tailed black cockatoos and all the other points that I've made, then I submit that the assessment carries no weight. And I just want to mention that Chris Howe has spent over a decade, and I know this personally, and he's to speak next, has spent over a decade working closely, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly, I think you'll find, looking after that Big Swamp Bird Park. He knows the habitat of each of the major animals and birds and so on in the area. Please listen to him carefully. And if
Mr. Phillips, you're going to, I'll allow you just to summarise, but you've been about past your 10 minutes. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in terms of the housing crisis, housing development must take place, and it's critical we look after housing development, but only on lands which are without important biodiversity, and, as in this case, without vegetation and open space which supports the native biodiversity of the region. Indeed, new housing estates will need to be planned in such a way that there is as much native biodiversity as possible thereon conserved, and plans implemented for at least 30% canopy cover. And finally, mental health. Radical increase in mental ill health, as you know, is taking place across the community, and the more the literature that I've accessed in recent times shows three things. The more biodiversity to which we're exposed, the more healthy our gut biome is likely to be, and our gut health works interdependently with our brain function and therefore our mental health. So that's the physical aspect. Secondly, exposure to nature in the emotional context.
Mr. Phillips, I have been quite lenient there. I'll allow you a couple of sentences to summarise, but it's well over 10 minutes at this stage.
Is it? Okay. So anyway, mental ill health can be improved by keeping and conserving our biodiversity, and the greater good lies, in my submission, in looking after 89 Beach Road and its biodiversity through to the Big Swamp. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips, and Chris Howe, following that introduction. Thank you.
Thanks. Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. My name's Chris Howe, a South Bunbury resident and President of the Friends of Big Swamp Community Group. I'm here to speak against the officer's recommendation to proceed with the sale of 89 Beach Road. My arguments may not be new to you. You're aware that 200 of the 210 submissions, that's 95%, were against the sale. However, the summary of the reasons provided in the report, I think, brushes over some of the key points made by us in those submissions. I'd like to reiterate a few here now. Starting with the Big Swamp wetland, it has had a checkered past, as I'm sure you know, market gardens, rubbish tip, etc., and the wetland is still suffering from the encroachment of urban area and the challenges that come along with that. The wetland is certainly not a pristine, untouched remnant habitat. However, it is used by hundreds, if not thousands, of people every day. It's valued by community, it's held high on the city's priorities for natural area, and it is an incredibly important refugia for many native species, including waterbirds, reptiles, invertebrates, and the critically endangered western ringtail possum. It's also true that the lot at 89 Beach Road may not consist of local endemic tree species and is not pristine habitat. However, the lot still holds many values for wildlife habitat, urban cooling and buffering climate change. It makes up part of the vegetation buffer around the Big Swamp, and it has huge potential for improvement of habitat through good management. You could try to find remnant habitat in WA uninfluenced by human impact. Good luck. Therefore, our value system needs to shift to better account for novel impacted systems within urban areas and give them the value they deserve. With bird flu reaching Australia, the health and buffering capacity of the Big Swamp system as a refugia for bird life has never been more important. Since construction of the islands in Big Swamp in the 90s and the subsequent revegetation efforts by the city, the Friends of Big Swamp and the wider community, volunteers have completed monthly bird counts at the swamp for 30 years. The data show increase in bird numbers and total bird species observed at the swamp as the dryland habitat around the perimeter has established and provided more structure and diversity of habitat to support a greater diversity of birds. This shows the value of fringing dryland vegetation in close proximity to the wetland. We understand the hydrology of Big Swamp better because community requested a water monitoring project in 2015 and volunteers have continued to collect monthly data on Big Swamp water levels ever since. We only know what we know about the freshwater turtle population at Big Swamp because community instigated the Murdoch University research project following concerning observations of adult turtles, nest predation and a lack of baby turtles. Since this research, volunteer monitoring has identified that the turtles struggle to find suitable nesting areas in the vicinity of the Big Swamp and are forced to utilise private yards or playgrounds and lawn in recreational areas for their nesting. 89 Beach Road is a known nesting location for the local turtles. Published research from the Murdoch Turtle team describes the relationship between urbanisation of the fringing land around a wetland and the negative impacts that land use change can have on the survival of turtle populations. The paper in summary says freshwater turtles, which rely on both terrestrial and aquatic habitats to complete their life cycles, are one of the most endangered vertebrate groups, with approximately 60% of species threatened. Habitat alteration caused by urbanisation is recognised as one of the main threats to freshwater turtles. The study shows how the modification of terrestrial habitat around wetlands may directly influence the population viability of freshwater turtles. Protection and restoration of native vegetation fringing urban wetlands is crucial to support the viability of remnant freshwater turtle populations. This is all from the Murdoch research paper published. I feel that for this reason, the development of 89 Beach Road, which is undoubtedly part of the terrestrial habitat fringing the Big Swamp, will have a negative impact on an already struggling population of turtles in the Big Swamp. To wrap up, a reminder to councillors and city staff that habitat is difficult to recreate, it's costly, it takes a long time, and it's really hard to get it right. The loss of green spaces like 89 Beach Road is permanent. The Big Swamp is a community wetland. Hundreds of thousands of hours of volunteer efforts from community have shaped it to the highly valued asset that it is today. Please listen to that same community when we ask you now not to sell 89 Beach Road, effectively removing vegetation and fringing habitat from the Big Swamp forever.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. Mr. Jay Reynolds. Jay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight about the proposed sale of 89 Beach Road. Firstly, I want everybody to know that I don't live nearby 89 Beach Road. Like many others that oppose the sale of 89 Beach Road, my interest is not about the view out my window, nor the view down my street. I'm compelled to be here by my values and principles, and the principles that apply to this issue. I'm here tonight because I strongly oppose the sale of this land. For me and others, this goes back more than 10 years. I was one of many involved in the campaign in 2015 to prevent this land from being rezoned from Parks and Recreation Reserve to residential use. At that time, there was very strong community opposition. A petition containing more than 900 signatures was presented to council opposing the rezoning. Back then, I presented a deputation to council opposing the rezoning. I was here in 2015 and I'm here again in 2026. The concern we had back then was very straightforward. We were concerned that if this land was rezoned for residential development, it would eventually become available for sale and would be lost from community ownership. This is precisely the situation we are facing today. The 11-year history of this issue and the ongoing community opposition tells a story. But is the council listening? This is not simply about selling a residential block. It is a matter of principles. Despite the opposition of ratepayers back then, the land is now rezoned residential. But I don't believe the question before council should simply be, can this land be sold? The question should be, should this land be sold? And more importantly, is selling this land genuinely in the long-term interest of the Bunbury community? Those are very different questions. The fact that the land was eventually rezoned does not mean council has an obligation to sell it. Council still has a choice. You can retain this land. Once you sell it, however, you cannot undo that decision. The land will be gone from public ownership permanently, and so will the trees and grass and shrubs and everything that makes up this piece of natural environment. I want to remind everybody in this chamber that the community has already expressed their views on this issue, only to be ignored by the council. More than 900 people signed a petition in 2015 opposing the rezoning. I remember the strength of the feeling in the community at the time, and I remember why people were concerned. They did not want to see the land that had been held for the benefit of the community ultimately converted into private property. The fact that the rezoning eventually went ahead does not mean those concerns were wrong, and it does not mean those concerns should now be forgotten. In fact, I would argue that they are more relevant today because the very outcome that people were concerned about in 2015 is now before the council. The community's concerns in 2015 deserve to be heard again and acknowledged with the right decision here in 2026. The main reason I oppose the sale of this park and the principle of selling community-owned land to generate money to fix a small The main reason I oppose the sale of this park is the principle of selling community-owned land to generate money to fix a small hole in the budget. I am concerned that land which belongs to the community is being treated as a financial asset which can be sold when the council needs additional funds. I don't believe that is good long-term financial management. Land is finite. Once council sells this property, the community loses the land forever. The money received from the sale can only be spent once. And that once equates to 0.7% of the council's current annual budget. Let that sink in for a minute. Public open space gone forever to generate 0.7% of the council's budget for 1 year. Blind Freddie can see that this is poor decision making. After the money is gone, the community has neither the money nor the land. If council is experiencing financial pressure, then that needs to be addressed through responsible budgeting, prioritising expenditure and sustainable financial management. It should not be addressed by progressively selling off community assets. I would therefore ask the council to be completely transparent with the community about the financial purpose of the sale, which I believe is the core driver of this sale. Unfortunately for the City of Bunbury, the ratepayers are smart enough not to believe the deception that this is all about trying to help solve the housing crisis. I accept that Bunbury needs more housing, but I'll have to ask, are 2 additional houses really sufficient justification for permanently disposing of a city-owned asset which is currently in the form of parkland? 2 houses are not going to solve Bunbury's housing shortage nor make any notable impact. We all know the real reason. We all know that the real people facing the housing shortage won't be able to afford to buy the houses that get built on this land, nor afford to pay the rents of the houses on this land. I believe the council has a responsibility to think beyond the next budget and beyond the next election cycle. You are the custodians of assets that belong to the community. Future councils may have different priorities. Future generations may have different needs. We don't know what Bunbury will look like in 20, 30 or 50 years. But if council retains the land, future generations still have options. If council sells it, they don't. This is why I believe the decision should be approached with caution. Selling public land is irreversible. I ask the Mayor and councillors to listen to the people they represent. There is one further point I would like to make tonight, and that is directed specifically to the Mayor and councillors. You have chosen to serve on council, and with that comes a responsibility to listen to the people you represent and to properly consider their concerns. I am not suggesting that councillors must agree with every individual resident or that every petition automatically determines the outcome of a council decision, but I do believe there is a clear, long-standing and substantial community opposition, and it deserves to be taken seriously. More than 900 people signed the petition in 2015, which is significant, and you know that. And now, more than a decade later, members of the community are once again standing before you, asking you not to sell this land. I encourage the Mayor and every councillor to reflect on what that tells you. Please don't simply ask whether the sale is legally responsible. Please don't simply ask how much money the city can receive. Please ask yourself, what are the people who elected us asking us to do? Are we genuinely listening to them? Are we acting in a way that reflects the long-term interests of the community where we are elected to serve? I respectfully encourage every member of council to fulfil the responsibilities of their office by giving genuine weight to the views of the ratepayers and by making this decision in the best interests of the broader Bunbury community. I would ask you to remember that the council is not the owner of these assets in the same way that a private individual owns their property. You are custodians. The land ultimately belongs to the community that you represent. And when that community has expressed such strong and long-lasting opposition to its disposal, I believe that voice deserves to be heard. I'm asking the council to reconsider. I stood before the council in 2015 because I believe this land should remain for the community. More than 900 people held the same position. I am standing here again tonight, more than 10 years later, because I still believe the same thing. The circumstances have changed, the zoning has changed, but the fundamental issue has not changed. We are still deciding whether a piece of land that has been held by the community should be ultimately transferred into private ownership, and I believe the council should stop and reconsider whether this is really the right thing to do. I'm asking you not to look at this as simply a piece of land with a dollar value. Look at it as a community asset. Look at its history. Look at the people who stood up in 2015 to try and protect it, and again here in 2026. Many of which are new faces and have moved into the area and have the same concerns. To the Mayor and councillors that have continued to vote for the sale of lot 89 Beach Road, I'll finish my deputation with a proverb regarding the decision to sell this piece of land. All people make mistakes, but a good person admits when they are wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Reynolds. Gail Parker. Thank you, Gail.
Good evening, Mr Mayor and councillors, and welcome back, Councillor Steck, and congratulations, Deputy Mayor Kozaczek. I find myself left with very little to say. It's all been said behind me. I would like to say, first of all, that I recognise you all do a very difficult job in the face of quite strong public opposition at times, and we've seen tonight that you're all really in the hot seat and it's not easy. I'm just going to read through what I've got in front of me. Sure. It's not very long and it's kind of just a summary. I want to talk to you tonight about being disillusioned and having lost faith in the city's judgment on matters that are important. These are matters that are important to the community at large, not just those who've been labelled as a vocal minority practising a bit of NIMBYism. As Jay said, in 2015 there was strong community opposition to the rezoning of 89 Beach Road for housing. At that time, people felt that they had not been listened to. And Councillor Steck, you felt strongly enough to vote against the rezoning at that time. Now in 2026, an even larger group of people feel the same lack of connection with or understanding of the city's decision to sell off the land for housing. Remember that around 600 people signed a petition against the sale within a very short period of it being publicised. A very strong deputation was made to you here last Tuesday at the briefing meeting when it was put to you that there has been no public interest assessment of the value of 89 Beach Road. Only looking at the economic value does not pass the pub test in the face of all the many and varied issues that were raised in more than 200 submissions opposing the sale. Issues that were reduced to only 5 points, then dismissed out of hand as already having been addressed in the report. I'm putting to you that the community is justified in feeling a lack of confidence that councillors are making a fully informed decision on this matter if you have not personally read and assessed the points made in the submissions. The report has failed to adequately represent those submissions. We're now in 2026, not 2015, and society at large is more concerned than ever about the great need to retain mature trees and the green spaces to grow them in. To sell off land with existing large trees immediately adjacent to an important wetland just doesn't make sense, any more than it fits in with modern planning practice. It doesn't pass the pub test. Tell me why I shouldn't feel disillusioned. I'm worried about global warming, I'm worried about climate change, and I'm worried about the future we're leaving our children and grandchildren. What's this got to do with 89 Beach Road? The green mantra is think globally, act locally, and that's what we're all doing here today. We're acting locally. The way to protect our urban environment and keep it livable is to protect our trees. No matter how many new trees are planted now, it will be decades before they can make up for the mature specimens being relentlessly removed, and importantly, the loss of the spaces to grow them in. I believe the final number of submissions received by Council during the advertising period was 210. Of these, only 9 supported the sale. The rest expressed a strong desire for the city to reconsider its stance. I'm respectfully asking you to listen to the reasonable, informed members of the community who felt strongly enough to take the time to make those submissions and who are asking you to make a reasonable, informed decision tonight. Don't lightly throw away this opportunity for all time. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. And I know Mackenzie and Renee were next door when I just popped that in there. Come on in. Come on up. Just you, Mackenzie?
Yeah.
Very good.
Good evening, councillors. My name is Mackenzie and I'm 11 years old. I'm here tonight because I want to speak against the proposed sale of Lot 21, which is 89 Beach Road next to the Big Swamp and Wildlife Park. I know I'm only 11, but I think kids should have a say when decisions are being made about places that we will grow up with and hopefully enjoy for many years to come. Big Swamp is a really special part of Bunbury. It's somewhere where people can walk, see birds and wildlife, enjoy the trees and have a break from all the buildings and roads. I love that there are places like this where you can feel connected to nature even though you're in the city. The trees at 89 Beach Road have been nurtured and allowed to grow for around 40 years. That makes them really significant. They provide shade, food and home for birds and other wildlife, and they are an important part of the natural corridor around Big Swamp. Wildlife doesn't understand where one property boundary ends and another begins. For birds and insects, possums and other animals, these trees and connected areas are all part of the same habitat. If we keep removing pieces of that habitat, eventually there won't be enough of it left. I understand that Bunbury needs houses and that council has to make decisions about land, but I don't think building 2 houses is more important than protecting mature trees and important native wildlife corridor that has been developing for decades. It doesn't make sense to demolish something that has taken 40 years to grow and then start from scratch. We talk about protecting our environment and increasing our tree canopy, but selling this land and removing mature trees would mean going backwards. Why would we spend our ratepayers' money trying to create more canopy and protect wildlife, while at the same time allowing an established area like this to be destroyed? We should be maintaining the canopy we already have, not demolishing it and starting again. I also think about what Bunbury will look like when I'm an adult and when I have children on my own. I want them to be able to walk around Big Swamp, see the trees and wildlife and enjoy the same natural places that I can enjoy now. So I ask you to please take this consideration, not just the people who live here today, but the many generations who will come after us. Imagine the children who will be 11 years old, 20, 30 or 40 years from now. They should be able to enjoy these trees, see the wildlife and experience the natural areas we have today. I hope that when future generations look back at the decisions you made, they will see that you chose to protect and support Bunbury's native areas. They will see that you cared about our environment and made decisions that help nature rather than taking it away. Once public land is sold, we can't easily get it back. Once a 40-year-old tree is gone, we can't replace what it provides overnight. Please keep 89 Beach Road in public ownership and protect the trees, wildlife, corridor and green space for everyone, including kids like me and all the generations that will come after us. I believe we should leave Bunbury with more trees, more wildlife and more natural places than we inherited, not less. Thank you. I also want to say that the definition for helping wildlife is saving natural habitats, planting native trees and stopping pollution so animals can have a clean place to live. And I also want to quote from the Lorax to Let It Grow.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Thank you. Well done. That is the end of the deputations. We have a recommendation there in front of us, an executive recommendation. Do I have a mover for the executive recommendation? Councillor Kozisek. Is there a seconder? Councillor Broad. Councillor Kozisek.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the deputations. Very moving, very interesting, and
So I'll just remind, sorry, Councillor, I'll just remind that obviously there was opportunities for members of the public to participate. I will just ask to refrain any comments from the gallery at this stage. Thank you.
So firstly, let me say thank you to the community who have taken the time to make submissions and share their views. Whether you support the sale or oppose it, your passion, thoughts and opinions and engagement in the decision-making process are appreciated and have been considered, believe me. I have carefully read the submissions for and against, and I do not believe any of the submissions have changed the fundamental facts relating to this block of land, the history, the rezoning and the chronic need for housing lots. We continue to hear from project builders that the demand for residential housing far exceeds supply. They will tell you they have clients wanting to build a home but unable to find a block of land, and that any new lots that go onto the market are snapped up immediately. This is the reality of the housing market we face today, and that's why every block counts. I have also read the report from the Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions, dated the 6th of August 2026, which states that there were no concerns regarding the proposed sale and there is no statutory compliance requirements associated with the property. Tonight's decision is about more than a single parcel of land. It's about whether we as a community are prepared to contribute to addressing one of the most significant challenges facing us today: housing affordability and housing availability.
Members of the public, again, I'll just ask you to refrain. Thank you.
I listened to a very timely podcast last week. Economist Chris Richardson, who has worked in the Treasury Department and in many other positions in government, argued that the long-term solution to the housing crisis ultimately requires governments at local, state and federal levels to say yes to development and increasing housing supply. He talked about many things, but the item that struck a chord with me were his thoughts on the housing situation in Australia. And I quote, "The long-term solution to the housing crisis does lie in saying yes in my backyard." He went on to say, "Stop the red tape and stop the community putting pressure on councils to stop development. Block by block, street by street and suburb by suburb, council by council, it will make a difference." And his closing comments, and I quote, "Getting older and richer Australians to agree to change happening around them and allowing younger, less well-off people into the property market." Now, we all value our public open space, but we also need to balance that with homes for young families, essential workers, first-home buyers and our future generations. We as elected members are entrusted to make the hard decisions for the well-being of the broader community as a whole. Sometimes the loudest voices are the ones that we hear most often. We can't just be chasing votes. If we continue to do this, no decisions will ever be made, or every decision will be challenged. The old saying, "Those who shout the loudest will get heard." But we must also consider those who are not in this chamber, those who do not write submissions, those who may not have the time or resources to advocate for themselves, yet are equally affected by the housing shortage facing our city. For me, this decision comes down to whether this land can make a meaningful contribution to Bunbury's future. Having considered the evidence before us, I believe it can, and for that reason, I support the sale. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kozak. Second to Councillor Broad.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I have nothing to add at the moment.
Thank you. So you reserve your right, is what you're saying?
Thank you. I reserve my right.
Thank you. Speaker against, Councillor Ramesh.
Mr Mayor, before I put my arguments forward, could I also make a request for an alternative recommendation, please?
Yeah, sure. So an alternative recommendation. What's your alternative recommendation? Have you given it to the minute taker by any chance?
For this item 10.4.2, my alternative recommendation would be to stop the sale of 89 Beach Road.
Yep.
Immediately. And I would also request the CEO to make a formal report in the next few months to how to get back the 89 Beach Road back to the public open space regulations.
So Councillor Ramesh, obviously you've foreshadowed an alternative recommendation. So the process here, councillors, is that there's an amendment to this particular recommendation. We're still dealing with this recommendation. What Councillor Ramesh has now done is he's foreshadowed that if this recommendation is lost, there will be a subsequent recommendation that we will then debate. Obviously, we probably need to work on some of the wording around that, but I'm sure we understand the emphasis of that, and potentially, Councillor Ramesh, what I suggest now is you speak against this. While you're speaking, I'll allow governments to potentially get some wording up, which is probably in line of what you've just suggested. And then obviously that can be shown. But of course, as I indicated, if this is lost, you will then have that opportunity to move that. That's the process that we work through alternative recommendations. Thank you, Councillor Ramesh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to all the community attendees who spent probably months and months objecting this sale. And I also want to thank all the speakers who spoke at the deputation today, and especially the young Mackenzie Morrison. I think she did a great job. Should give a big round of applause, actually, again. This decision is ultimately about more than the sale of a parcel of land. It is about listening to a community, protecting what makes Bunbury special, and preserving the trust that residents place in their elected representatives. We have received an overwhelming community response, 200 objections compared with just 10 submissions supporting the sale. That is a clear and a powerful expression of community sentiment, and it deserves to be heard, applauded, and respected. Residents are asking us to look beyond the immediate financial return and consider the long-term environmental and community value of the site. The trees, the green space, the natural habitat, and its relationship to the broader Big Swamp environment contribute to the character, amenity, and ecological resilience of this part of Bunbury. The report itself acknowledges the potential habitat, value of the vegetation, and the presence of western ringtail possum records in the surrounding area. As councillors, somebody's already pointed this out, we're not simply custodians of council assets for today, we are custodians of the legacy we leave for tomorrow. Once this land is sold and developed, that green space and its potential community and environmental value cannot simply be recovered. Most importantly, community trust is an asset too. Whenever residents take the time to make 200 submissions asking council to reconsider, we should not dismiss that voice simply because the land is legally zoned residential. I believe the responsible decision is to listen to a community, protect our green spaces and natural environment, and preserve this land for a future purpose that delivers lasting public benefit. I therefore respectfully ask my fellow councillors and Mr. Mayor to listen to a community, protect our green spaces and natural environment, preserve this asset for future generations, and vote against the proposed sale of Lot 21, Beach Road. Let us show a community that when they speak with such clarity, we as a council and a councillors listen to them. Thank you.
Do you want to bring it up now? Yeah. So I understand there's been some wording work done. Again, we'll be dealing with this if this recommendation is lost, but just obviously, Ramesh, we'll just get the wording for us so elected members are aware. I'll just make sure this is the wording that you're after. So that is what, that is the essence of what you suggested, Councillor Ramesh. Is that not quite right?
I think it needs to be to its previous zoning, including the public open space.
Okay. Look, in essence, that's, yeah, okay. Sure. Yeah. Look, I just wanted to show what's been suggested for elected members' point of view. If this is lost, we'll be dealing, that has been what's been foreshadowed, and that is something that will be considered. We can rework the wording if that's then, if this
Mr. Mayor, just a slight amendment. If
well, let's. I think that's that is in essence what you're after.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're not dealing with that particular item yet. We're dealing with the executive recommendation. I just wanted to make that clear that will be, in essence, there'll be some slight amendment wordings. Thank you, Councillor Ramesh. So we'll probably park that below. Minute taker, please. If the current recommendation has a mover and has a seconder, and as I said, that then there's been foreshadowed a alternative recommendation should this lose. So we've had a speaker against. Is there a speaker for the executive recommendation? Councillor Turner.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak about the proposed sale of the residential block 89 Beach Road. I know many of you are disappointed, even angry about the prospect of selling this land, and I respect your concerns, especially about the trees. I want to explain as honestly and openly as I can why I support the recommendation. The lot is owned by the city and zoned residential, and our decision is based on it being a residential block. Under its current residential zoning, it can accommodate 2 house blocks at a lower density than many of the other surrounding properties. Our role as councillors is to decide on what is before us tonight. Our decisions are not based on our own personal opinions. They are guided by the relevant policies, planning frameworks, and a broader public interest, and us remaining objective. But I also need to be honest about the broader context. Bunbury is facing a housing shortage. Families...
Again, members of the public, I have asked for respect for the elected members who are speaking, and I would ask once again that you show that respect.
Families are struggling to find somewhere to live. Every single day I see people so close to losing their homes because of the cost in residential rents are too high. We've got a lot of people moving to Bunbury, and they're not just looking for cheap accommodation, they're also looking to build nice homes, and we've got a lot of professionals coming, especially with millions, hundreds of millions of dollars being spent on the hospitals. We've got more doctors, psychologists, physiotherapists, just a few that are coming here that are looking for a home. This also frees up other houses of less value that they build and move into. The city has a responsibility, one I take seriously, to be a part of the solution, making underutilised residential zone land available for housing is one necessary step. No 2 houses will solve the crisis, but every home matters, with an emphasis on homes. These are people's future homes. This is not about a cash grab or filling budget gaps. Any funds from this sale are reinvested back into our whole community. I understand that many of you tonight are deeply concerned about preserving the trees on this land. However, this site is zoned for residential use. We cannot simply refuse development based on the presence of trees alone. If we were to do so, it would set a precedent that could unfairly restrict responsible development across our city, regardless of individual property circumstances. Every councillor here values our green spaces, and tree preservation is always a part of our discussions. At the same time, we must acknowledge the urgent need for housing each day. The fact that there is already a genuine offer on this block highlights how crucial and critical and competitive the housing situation has become. Finally, I want to remind everyone that the city is not abandoning its commitment towards a greener Bunbury. In fact, just recently we planted 560 new trees across the city.
Could I please ask once more, just no more outbursts from the gallery, please. Thank you, Councillor Turner.
We've made a lot of changes with the City of Bunbury by planting more established trees, and a lot of the trees will double their growth each year compared to before we used to plant seedlings that would take forever to grow. They've made huge advancements in the way we plant trees and the way we look after them with mulch and better watering. Our canopy cover has significantly increased since 2020, and our greening efforts will not depend on this one lot. The Big Swamp Nature Reserves remains fully protected and its future is not in question. I recognise that this is a difficult and emotional issue. The passion for preserving our city's green space and wildlife is clear, and I share that commitment deeply. When I look at the Big Swamp area, I see a remarkable transformation achieved through the dedication of the City of Bunbury and the Friends of the Big Swamp, turning what was once a rubbish tip into a thriving urban wetland and a vital ecological asset. As a councillor, one of the hardest and most isolating parts of this role is facing moments when a vote appears to not reflect the wishes of people I respect. It is incredibly difficult to cast a vote that may go against the passionate views of some residents, knowing it will cause disappointment and knowing some may never understand or forgive that decision. But we are elected to make these difficult choices, even when they come at a personal and emotional cost. This is one of the most challenging responsibilities we all carry. My decision tonight reflects the need to balance the environment and amenity benefits this block offers with Bunbury immediate housing challenges. Anyone who knows me understands how committed I am to protecting trees and green spaces, but my foremost responsibility is to ensure the residents have secure housing and means to support their families. While I value every tree, I believe addressing housing shortages must take priority. And I also...
You're at the 5 minutes, Councillor Turner. If you've got a closing statement, otherwise...
I just want to thank the staff for all the hard work they've put into this. It would have been a very challenging 6 months. And you've done an amazing job at answering all the questions and that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Is there a speaker against? Councillor Steck.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to say thank you to councillors for listening and thank you to the gallery for attending, because it is important that we do get information back from our community before we make any decisions. And as rightly pointed out this evening, I was already a decision maker against the rezoning in the beginning, because over 900 submissions were received stating that they had value in that parcel of land. It's up to council then to listen to people and to value their contributions for their values and beliefs, what they have. Now, we're not going to be able to fulfil everybody's needs and beliefs. We all know that. But why would we challenge a community of 900 people in the beginning, then another 210 over a good 11-year period? It just beggars belief why we continue that path. But what we do and will need to do is identify parcels of land into the future. That's very, very clear. But one of the representations I did agree with, and which I think a few of the councillors in this room would agree with, is cutting red tape, because that is just almost like a one-liner that doesn't really get attention that it deserves. And if we're really serious about land, we would be going straight to Chewett Brook and saying, bringing this online. We'd be going to Glen Iris and saying, there's a lot of land out there that hasn't even been brought online. Bring that online. It's already rezoned. I would also go land infill. So I know that we did a blanket rezoning probably a couple of years ago, but I would say look at that, because the infrastructure is already there. The sewage is there, the electricity is there. It's just a matter of a few small upgrades. So that is what council can do as a local government to tackle housing, not start to just parcel off small areas that had significance to community. And rightly so, everyone's poured their hearts out in here today, everybody that got up and gave a submission to council, and including all those ones that I read. So I would simply say, vote this down, and I would be more inclined to agree with Ramesh.
Is there a speaker for the executive recommendation? Councillor Cass, I get the feeling you would like to speak. I'll make it easier, or do you want to... Sure.
I'd just like to ask that we remove standing orders on
Debate.
specific standing order on for and against?
Yes.
Sure. So Councillor Brown is moving that we, so again, members of the public, I'll try and explain things because I know sometimes I rush through them. We have standing orders. We have positions where we run our meetings. One of those standing orders is that the order of debate will be for and those against. That standing order, I think it's governance? He doesn't know. That particular standing order has been moved by Councillor Brown that we don't apply that standing order to this part of the meeting. Is there a seconder to that? Thank you, Councillor Kozak. I'll put that. Those in favour? That's carried. So right now, we don't need to ask for speakers for or against. We can just ask for speakers, reminding the rest of the standing orders are still in place, which allow for, obviously, what you can and can't say, and also that you can't speak twice. So just keeping that in mind as well. So I'll ask now for any speaker who hasn't previously spoken. Councillor Quain.
I just want to acknowledge everyone in the gallery, both in the chamber and in the room next door. I want to acknowledge everyone that's come up and asked a public question. I want to acknowledge everyone that's done a deputation, because I know that can be very nervous and something that's quite uncomfortable.
Point of order. To address the mayor, not the gallery.
Absolutely. So the point of order, Councillor Quain, you need to address when you're speaking. You can't speak to the gallery. You need to speak to us as elected members.
Thank you for that reminder.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Councillor Quain.
I also want to thank you and acknowledge the staff for their ongoing hours and resources spent on this item that's before us. It's been a long and steady process, and I know that many hours would have been put through this process. So all I want to say is, after consideration, I haven't changed my position. In my opinion, the economic benefit of the sale of 89 Beach Road and even the housing benefit doesn't come close to the environmental and community benefits that are currently provided by 89 Beach Road. So there is one thing I would like to consider in the alternate recommendation, is that the recognising that intersection of 89 Beach Road be an entry point to the Big Swamp. So I will vote with the community on this occasion. Thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Councillor Quain. Is there a further speaker, either for or against? Councillor Gassett.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you, Todd. Councillor Brown. So, Mr Mayor, let's make a couple of points. One technical, and at the end of my little spiel, I'll just also address what I believe is actually at the heart of this. So, not quite technical, but technically, we could argue for a long time for and against technically. I just want to present another little point of view from a technical perspective. That 2 years ago, we adopted council recommendation, or executive recommendation, to have a moratorium on public open space for 5 years. We've still got 3 years to go. That was on strata build and survey strata developments. So normally what happens is, when there's a development of those, 5 and over, you get 10% public contribution, roughly about 10% of the value of the land. So for another 3 years, we don't have that. So we're going to miss out on future developments of public open space contributions, which means the council has to come up with alternative land for those new developments. So in a way, what I'm trying to say is, adopting this resolution as presented will actually impede further developments. And this, let me try to put it in a different way. 1,400 square metres would be 10% of 14,000 square metres. 14,000 square metres of developable land. Say R30, that's about 42 dwellings. So adopting this motion actually, in my view, has the reverse of what we're actually trying to do, increase development. And we know the state government's also, not sure if it's happening here, but they're pushing for more density on R20. So if you've got 700 square metres, you can have 2 units. So we're talking about infill. That's just one point. Technically, also we're talking about, there's a professor that's been cited in the arguments too, from both, I suppose, ends of the argument, a botanist, and he has been quoted as saying we should retain those mature trees. He's also been quoted as they shouldn't be retained. I've actually taken the opportunity to speak to him in early July. It's diarised, and he's made it very clear, and he did email one of the people in the gallery, that these trees, regardless whether they're native or not, should be retained, the mature trees. This is a professor of botany, an expert in the field. He's saying it should be retained. That's in my diary. Now, Mr. Mayor, the other point I was trying to make is, sorry, I'll just mention the turtles, of course, the fauna and flora values in that property. The department, DBCA, have made some responses into our submissions to them, and from what I've read, they haven't said it's a property that should be developed. They said they don't oppose a sale, but any future development will have to go through the process of their approval. Okay? So they're not just waiving any environmental value there. So the non-technical side, Mr. Mayor, I spoke about love before. This community has adopted this property, and they actually love the property. And here we are, I feel we're trying to wrench it away from them. There's no way you can put value on a relationship like that. I'm not here to torment people. These people have had 3 rallies, 600 signatures in 1 week. They put their names to it. 210 submissions versus 10 submissions. I don't know how many times I've come here, filled the gallery up, and now it's overflowing. Now, as one said, I'm their custodian. They're telling me, as a custodian, it's their property. They do not want it sold. They love it. They want to retain it. So what's the problem of retaining it? So to me, they've adopted this property. It says, and in technical, political techno talk, just so to convince myself that they actually represent the community. A petition, if someone puts their name to a petition, been experienced in campaigns, that represents probably 30 people in the community. So 600 by 30, right? It's 18,000. If it's a letter, political talk, it represents 100 people. Someone's gone to the effort to write a letter. If it's an email submission, they put their names and addresses on it, probably represents 50 people, right? And the fact they're attending here, they've taken the time to attend in rain, hail and storm, that represents a lot of people. And I haven't seen anyone come up here adamant that we shouldn't be selling this property, except once I think they were borderline. So, Mr. Mayor, if someone loves something and we try to take it away from them...
You're summarising?
Yeah, this is a summary. If someone loves something, who am I to rip that something off them?
Councillor Brown.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, councillors, staff and everyone in the gallery. Thank you for the debate tonight. I'm going to speak against the executive recommendation. Tonight I will be brief and I will talk about what matters today. By the turnout here tonight, by the submissions of nearly 200 people, by the petition presented of over 600 names, and my regular discussions with the local community, I can see that this sale really matters. I think we can say that in 2026, our community places a greater value and has a deeper connection with our natural environment, the trees and their canopy,
Point of order. Just to be fair to Councillor Quain, can you address
Thanks,
the
councillor.
councillors, not the gallery, please?
Addressing the councillors. Thanks, Councillor Brown.
The trees and the canopy, the creatures they accommodate, more than ever before. It is not often that this chamber is full of passionate people riding together for a community matter. I value the feedback that I've received from the community, and I am listening to their various concerns. Over the past 6 months, the community has shown that they are against the sale of this piece of land, and it really does matter to them. I therefore ask you vote against the executive recommendation and stop the sale of the site, and look forward to the alternate motion. Thank you.
Is there any further speakers? Look, I haven't said anything, but I'll be brief because anyone who can do maths probably realises that there's 5 people against this, but I'll probably just make some of my points raised for the record, even though I could just take the easy road out and vote against this and probably keep a lot of people happy. But I want to just point out a few points that I think is important to raise and why I would be I am supporting this recommendation. There has been comments around housing. There has been comments about going, well, this is different to that. Those comments I've heard, I've been here for a long time. I remember a process where we were going through a development application at Plaza Street for tiny houses. It was a cleared land. Many of you should be familiar with it. It's very close to that area, a cleared lot. It's a state government owned, and there was significant people against that. Not because of trees, because they weren't sure that was the best use of that particular property. That failed. We had a similar conversation when there was tiny homes proposed at the Salvation Army, which are currently there. I remember going to a community forum out there with hundreds of people adamantly against it because of what that may do and what that may change for their area, where this was housing for people who needed it. And they were very strongly opposed. Fortunately, council in its wisdom did approve that, and it ended up being a very good opportunity. I love the idea. I wish we could go and develop Glen Iris and Chilbrook tomorrow. Chilbrook structure plan started in 2015, similar around this time, and they've had 3 or 4 iterations since then. And every single time is because there is more community pushback or some kind of pushback on something that's been proposed in there that the developers shouldn't be doing or should be doing. Glen Iris, which the structure plan has been out for public comment, received significant criticisms because of some of the changes that were there. I'm not saying that these obviously are not important. We go through that process. This went through this process in 2015 when I was here. It went through a scheme amendment and we went out for those things. Some of the concerns that were being raised were addressed at that time, I think, adequately. I know the comments are going, you're not listening, you're not hearing us. I am hearing, and I've considered those, and I've read those submissions. I've read all 210, some of them very detailed, some not so detailed, some from different parts of Australia. I think there was one from Queensland, which he indicated, but obviously most of them locals, which I respect, and I respect your views, and I hope you can obviously understand that some of the views that I'm raising here. Ultimately, I think this is we are going to have some similar, every single opportunity we look at any piece of land, we're going to have significant resistance. I can tell you that right now. And I think in this stage, and my view is that this is zoned as residential and there's the opportunity for us to do that. Saying that, I fully support council's decision wherever they may end up being. And I will also note, though, I suggest the position on there to transfer or rezone this is not a simple solution. It's not a simple answer. There is a process that will go through, which will take years, and that is the planning process. So I just want to obviously make people aware of that when you go and change something, it's not as simple as that. But I'll close by that, but I'll refer back to Councillor Kozisek for any closing comments.
Thank you, Mayor. To be honest, Councillor Turner, brilliant, everything she said. I think we're all thinking it's a very emotional night tonight in many ways, and it's a big decision, but I really don't have much more to say other than that whatever the council decides, I fully stand by and by the community. So thank you for listening and thank you for being here.
Thank you. So I'll put the 10.4.2. Those in favour of the executive recommendation, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those against? 5 against. That recommendation is lost. Councillor Ramesh, you foreshadowed an alternative recommendation, and we can get the wording correct on this now if you want to bring it up. So what was your suggestion? Sorry, Councillor Ramesh, happy to hear that now.
My request was that the council sees immediately the sale of Lot 21 Beach Road and request the CEO to provide a report back to council by the end of 2026 with the view to rezoning the land back to public open spaces and look at rezoning it again as Parks and Recreation Reserve. That was done in 2018. So we just...
I think you just got to just hold there a minute. I think getting those wordings correctly. Do you, and Councillor Ramesh, without jumping in there, is it worth potentially saying with the options of rezoning, including the option to rezone back to Parks and Recreation? Is that what you're after?
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay, so I think just with the view with the options of rezoning, just to obviously that will then give council a resolution to work with. Is that what you're thinking, Councillor Ramesh?
Absolutely, yes.
So after 2006, with a view with options of rezoning the land back to public space. Councillor Quine, let's just get this one right first, and then we'll take.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Recreation Reserve as Parks and Recreation Reserve. That was in the paragraph.
Okay, so what I'm suggesting around the thing that there may be different terminologies. The CEO just indicated there might actually be a different reserve yet, hence why I'm saying providing the options for rezoning, and obviously that can then be indicated what may be appropriate and what any terminology changes may be. So that's what I'm just thinking about being too definite, Councillor Ramesh.
So
ultimately, whatever report obviously is provided here will come back to council for a resolution. CEO, do you just want to make a comment?
I think the term Parks and Recreation Reserve was the old term, so I think it's public open space is probably the more appropriate term, which covers, I think, what Councillor Ramesh is trying to do.
That sounds absolutely correct.
Sure.
Thanks, Mr.
Councillor Ramesh, is that your intention there? And as I just said, obviously, that will provide a report back to council, so if there's some terminology that needs changing or whatnot, that'll be picked up in that recommendation. That's what you're after?
Yes, that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
I'll ask for a seconder first, and then I'll just take Councillor Steck. Were you looking to second, Councillor Quine, or you have a question?
Either.
I'll go with Councillor Steck as the seconder then, thank you, and then I'll take you as a question.
I'd like to consider a couple of extra points to the recommendation.
Well, this is Councillor Ramesh's foreshadowed recommendation. Now, Councillor Ramesh has foreshadowed this, which means it's not, you can potentially move an amendment. You can't add to somebody else's recommendation. So do you have an amendment that you're going to suggest? What's your amendment?
Consideration for two more items. One is to recognise 89 Beach Road as an entry statement to the Big Swamp. And the other one is to recognise 89 Beach Road as a greening corridor that connects Bolters Heights to Big Swamp.
Yeah, look, definitely the second one counts. Councillor, I see your intention. With process recommendations that you can't add to a recommendation that significantly changes it. What I would consider you may want to do in that space is either, and I'll just get some governance on this as my first view, but you may want to raise that as a motion on notice separately. But certainly the second point, because tying in a different item is something that you can't do as part of a recommendation. Otherwise, we could just start saying we up the budget in here. Councillor Quine?
So your suggestion of raising it as a motion on notice, can I do that later on in the agenda or at what stage?
We would need to prepare a report so that you'd be at the next council meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just get some governors. Through the CEO, would you agree with that point of view?
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I agree with your comments in relation to Councillor Quine's question.
Yeah. Hold that thought. Councillor Brown?
Can I suggest we go back to standing orders?
Councillor Brown's moved that we reinstate the standing order for and against it. It may not matter, but I'll second it to that. Councillor Kozisek, I'll put that. Those in favour, please indicate. So that's just indicating we're going back to normal standing orders, nothing different there. So Councillor Quine, are you okay with that? I'm just obviously that's the mindful of that process. You can put that in that motion of notice on writing, and we can deal with that separately. There are obviously other considerations there that need to be factored in with that as well. So is that okay? Thank you. You can, if you get that writing in, it'll be on the next agenda. Thank you. Okay, so we have an executive recommendation there as written, and this is as foreshadowed by Councillor Ramesh. That's been moved by Councillor Ramesh and seconded by Councillor Steck.
Mayor, can I just make one quick comment?
CEO.
The word back probably needs to be removed because it was never public open space, so perhaps just remove the word back.
Yeah, so the terminology may have changed in what that reserve was, so is that okay, Councillor Ramesh?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And second to Councillor Steck, you're happy with that change? Thank you. Thanks, CEO. Is there likely to be any further debate on this, councillors? If that's the case, I'll put that executive recommendation. Those in favour, please indicate. That's carried unanimously. So, for the members of the public, both here and next door, that land will not be sold. Next week there'll be a separate motion which deals with something else, and then obviously this will be a report back by some stage this year. So thank you for attending. You're more than welcome to stay. We have a few more items to deal with. I'll just give a moment for those clearing the gallery. As I said, you're more than welcome to stay, or you can watch next door. I'll talk to you later.
It's 10.5.
Hey? 10.5. What did I say? 15 or something. Close. Okay, so we're just going to move our way back to item 10.4.1, which is the adoption. So I'm sure elected, and probably more so potentially for Councillor Steck. So have you got email? Sorry, I'm going out of the thing. I'm not sure if Councillor Steck has email addresses or email correspondence. This stuff was sent around with some of the changes. We did discuss at the briefing last week about adopting, or basically what the recommendation was and what some of the thoughts around that. So this is something that the staff have reworded, which in essence is indicating similar to what was discussed last week, just obviously getting some further information, but importantly reporting back to Council as well. So before I ask for a mover, given there's been a bit of a change there to this, to what was initially printed, happy to take any questions. Councillor Steck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I note that the staff has made some changes, but the full report clearly states that there's not going to be any deck parking for 20 years. That's still going to be the case?
So I think in this regard, it's gathering some of the document. In the document, it was obviously a little bit inconsistent where some talked about that and then some of it talked about a 5-year plan. So I think it's about this particular council recommendation here. We'll be looking at some of those immediate things that have been suggested, which is obviously gathering some of that data and some of those things that were both addressed in this and addressed at the public meetings in regards to employee/customer parking. But more importantly, obviously, there's going to be a CEO report coming back to council within every 6 months to update on those things. So I think what was discussed last week, Councillor Steck, around the briefing was that some of the data in there needs to certainly be updated to understand exactly some of that stuff. So
Yeah, supplementary
Sure.
question. Thank you. Just in here, it says that demand responsive pricing, which means that it's going to, like peak periods are going to be costing more to stay here. Enhanced public transport, alternative transport options, pedestrian infrastructure, public, like transport cycling. They're all just like words, but there's no policy behind it.
Sure. So, and noting Councillor Steck, and it might be a good opportunity. We have Cam and Barb here who were at a number of meetings with the business owners, and was clearly pointed out that some of those priority actions that we didn't discuss will take that conversation with the business owners on board with them. So before any changes are happening, it's about gathering some of that data, and then obviously before we're doing anything, it's obviously coming back to council for further endorsement. So it's about keeping the ball rolling. The team have got a full list of all CBD owners, and they've been talking with them. And I get that, and that's hence why we're talking about this being as not a document that we're adopting in its entirety. It's a guiding document for us to work through as we continue to unwrap more of it. Sure.
Mr Mayor, one final one.
Sure.
In reading this, it clearly states that if a developer is going to develop with council, then the person will never really control their car base. Then they'll have to pay 50% in lieu to the car base, and they'll never be able to manage the amount charged for the car base, meaning the hourly rate. So I just think that whole section shouldn't even be in the document, because who's going to want to develop that? Not me.
Sure. You get a couple of options. I don't know if the CEO wants to make a comment on that. Otherwise, that's the parking strategy, which has obviously been presented to us, and hence why I said there's some. It's a guiding document for us to work through. None of that will obviously, as we work our way through, what are the things that can be endorsed, and what are we going to do from there. But CEO, did you have any other further comment on that?
Just to say, and obviously Councillor Steck wasn't at the agenda briefing, but what we tried to do is pick up in the revised executive recommendation is the sentiment from that meeting. We have to start somewhere with parking. So it's one of the things that people have talked to me about consistently since I've been at the city, and we do note that there is some data limitations in the way that the data that we do have access to. We do need a technology solution. So as you know, we used to have one, but that's no longer supported. There is a number of quick wins that we've identified that we will do. What we're asking council to do is adopt this as a guiding document, and that recognising there's a whole lot more work that will be done in terms of data and in terms of the work that we'll do with all of the business owners, and looking at those areas that we can make some of those changes now. We know from the work that we've done and the presentation we've had with the City of Fremantle and the City of Vincent, the journey they've been on with parking, and the data that they suggest that when you get to 85%, then you start looking at some of the other parking measures. This is designed about gathering more data and incrementally making some changes, but there's some things we can do right now. How does Victoria Street, how does our city streets work? How does Symonds Street work? They're the things that we'll concentrate on, as well as improving the data and then the enforcement. We now have a team of rangers. We're pretty much at full complement, which is not the way the city's been over the last 2 years. So we're ideally positioned to take the work that has been done, and I recognise that there's some limitations to it, but it's a good starting point for us to move forward. It's been well received in the consultation that we had with the business community in particular, and the two forums that we run. So there's more work to do, and that's what this recommendation is really about.
For that, Mr CEO, but can I just probably make a comment more
I might get it on the table then, Councillor Steck, and then if you want to speak against it, and then obviously it may be worth having a further conversation. You make obviously some public comments in a moment, but it might also be have a further conversation potentially with the team been working through this as well. But absolutely. But let's get on the table, and obviously you can make any comments then. Someone would like to move this recommendation. Councillor Kozisek, seconder, Councillor Turner. And when I say any comment, obviously not any comment, Councillor Steck, of course. Councillor Kozisek, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor. You will all recall that I fought vehemently to remove the parking meters in town. That was a 2-year fight that we won, and I'm still very, very pleased that we have done that, and we have created churn in our street. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked brilliantly. However, I do support the executive recommendation, bearing in mind this is a guiding document only. With the revised inclusions, I feel that the strategy has recognised the gaps in our current data, and that to be able to move forward with parking planning, we need current and all-encompassing data. I attended the public briefing on Thursday evening, where I think we had about 25 business owners, etc. It was a really interesting night, a lot of really good feedback. We need to be in a position to understand where people are parking, what times, why, and the proximity to their destination. If staff are parking in spaces identified as shopper car parking, then we need to be able to offer staff another option. It must be safe for them to walk to and from work, especially in winter when it is sometimes dark by 5:30 p.m. Turnover is important for parking bays. 2 hours free parking on the street in the main shopping area is designated for shoppers. Increasing ACROD parking provisions is also needed, as some areas do not have any provisions for this. Gold parking bays for our seniors, and as Councillor Crane brought up the other day, whether or not seniors have a pension card, we need to cater for our self-funded retirees, so it's something we need to look at there. Our communication to the community must always endorse that shopper parking is free. We don't want to send the wrong message. We have a full range of rangers on the streets daily finding serial offenders, and as long as we continue to monitor and enforce the time limits, enforcing that on-street parking in the retail precinct is not for staff but for customers. Redistribute the parking demand. Now this is really important. 6 monthly reports will help us to monitor and be flexible, and when we do have new data we can adapt to new parking trends. There are obvious limitations in the data. Not all car parks are mentioned and not all parking bays are mentioned. And for many years there has been talk of building a multi-storey car park. Many locations have been discussed. Personally, I don't think we're quite there yet. We must also be aware that any multi-storey car park will not be free parking, and at the cost of approximately $90,000 per parking bay to construct a multi-level, whoever builds this facility will want a return on their money. However, I do not believe that accepting this parking strategy precludes any further discussion on a multi-level car park in the future. If the right proposal or joint venture option was presented to Council, it would be seriously considered. But more accurate data is the key to good decision making. We do need to upgrade the city's smart parking systems to gain the full picture on any given day, on any given time. But I thank you to the staff for the comprehensive report. I just wish we had more current data available. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Kozak's pretty much covered everything. I wish there was a lot more data regarding the parking strategy, and hopefully we get the data soon, not waiting years before we start getting a lot more detail. I am concerned about when the hotel goes in and when it's being built, about the lack of parking in that particular area, especially on the weekends or during the night when Breck has shows on and the cinema and all the other areas are activated. I drove through last Wednesday and there wasn't a car park in sight, and that's on a Wednesday night, not on a weekend. So I certainly hope we push this along a lot quicker, so we can get a lot more detail and, appreciate the work that's been done so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Speaker against this recommendation,
I'm
Councillor
really going to
Steck.
speak
You can
against,
make some comments,
but
sure.
I just would make some comments. I'd like to push along the public transport too, because a lot of the complaints I get is with those big buses. There's only like 4 people or 5 people on them, and I know that that's a state government set criteria, but we really do have to look at that, because that's just like a huge waste. And I also believe that share concerns with Karen Turner, Councillor Turner, because when that hotel resort gets built, there's going to be significant lack of parking. That's why the 20-year parking for a deck car bay is just silly nonsense. And I've already spoken with plenty of businesses, and they will actually buy the car bays as they're being built. And there's significant ones in the CBD. So just don't shut the door on it.
Thank you, Councillor Steck. Speaker 4, Councillor Crane.
Thank you, Mayor. I've just got a question. Is it appropriate to ask now?
If it's relating to this, yeah.
So item 5, request the CEO to provide a report to Council every 6 months on the implementation progress of the 20-year parking action plan. Will there be an opportunity for Council to have input on that action plan?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the intent, right? So obviously, some of the short-term things are listed, which are listed there in part 4 around, what are we doing with some of those things and wayfinding information and that walkability. Of course, some of those things are going to potentially have budget deliberations to deal with as well, if we're looking to potentially increase some of that accessibility or safe or lights, whatever it may be. So that's the CEO's obviously opportunity through that process, either through a budget review or obviously if he comes back to us in 6 months and said, here are a couple of things that have been happening, And that's the opportunity where obviously that 20 action year plan, which we've just talked about, there might be the chance to say that some of the data that we've gathered actually indicates some of this thing is needed quicker or different in locations and those kind of things too. And obviously, ultimately, at any one stage, that's the beauty of this report. And when a report comes back to council, we can then suggest, you know what, we think we should prioritise this or whatever it may be too. So that is, in essence, the whole part of that point is giving council more oversight and input.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Speaker 4. No? Question?
I might speak against if the opportunity comes up.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, but first of all, the questions. Can we have, I guess, a high level explanation of where the city smart parking is and utilisation of that smart parking system? That's question one. Question two, are we focusing on demand-driven control of parking rather than supply-driven? 2, that's a price-sensitive part. 3, is it an action plan when we're talking 20 years, or is it it's actually a strategy? And 4, are we going to retain in the executive comments that there's no requirement for multi-deck car park for 20 years?
I'll work my way backwards. I think I've just outlined a response to part 5, which you've already indicated around the multi-deck car park, and that's going to be a living document. There is both a strategy and a 20-year plan, and it's a question 4. There's a strategy which the 20-year action plan is part of that, so there is two documents there, a part of that. In terms of where we're at with smart parking, CEO, do you have an answer?
So I think I think as point 3 identifies that would be a priority. So there's already been a number of investigations that the team's already done around the smart parking system. So we'll prioritise that and getting a solution in place that supports what the city's doing. As I said, we've now got a team and we've got a team that can do the enforcement, I think, which is the other important part of this. But the technology and having a technical solution that's going to help with the data, but also help in the smooth running of our parking across the city is required and will be prioritised.
And what was your other question?
The demand.
The
demand-driven method of controlling parking rather than supply.
Well, I think this strategy and what you would be looking at through different processes would look at both. Clearly, there's two parts to that, and what's outlined in some of the report and in some of the strategy talks about the fact that you do need to have potentially demand driving factors in some space, and as we've spoken about, and we've got someone here I've heard make the comment that he doesn't want to park out the front, he wants to park in the shop, so that's his right to do so, but in some of those cases everybody wanted to do that. Do we need to look at demand modelling to make sure that people with one of those that option to pay for that, or do we not? And that's obviously what we'll go through in this thing. So I would suggest there's a bit of both of that to go through this process and to work out the right balance. Like any things we work through an economy, is finding that right balance between demand and supply is something going to be pretty important. Speaker,
I just follow up question one more. So can we get real clarity? Is the city smart parking working as per contractual obligations?
CEO, do you have a response to that?
So the answer is no. We don't have accurate data. We've got a system that's not supported. So we have been, as the note 3 in this recommendation suggests, priority action to upgrade the city's smart parking system. That's in the recommendation.
So can we ask the suppliers or the contractor to meet the obligations? Is there some clause in the contract?
CEO, you want to take that on notice, or your response to that?
We've done that, Mayor. We're now looking at the next option.
Including addressing the matter with the supplier?
That'll become an operational matter, I would suggest, that you'll be looking at, Councillor Gassett.
Well, follow-up questions. When we do contracts, do we check the indemnity insurance?
So, Councillor Gassett, that's getting into the operational nature. So I'm happy to ask the question, but obviously the CEO's provided a response that's occurred and that would be happening. But That's what our staff are there to do.
Opportunity, I'll speak against the motion.
Sure. Is there a speaker for? Councillor Broad?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yes, after reading the strategy, I'm very happy to vote for this, and really happy also that the item 5 has been added, because I think that is going to update us nicely throughout this period. I also would like to thank the rangers. I think it's quite clear that the parking, particularly in the main CBD area, is changing because people aren't, and I know that a lot of staff park outside their shops all day. That certainly has been an impediment to the shopping every day. People are complaining that they can't park outside the shops, particularly the news agency in Victoria Street. They would love 15-minute car parks outside, just like the other end. But yeah, I just think it's a pretty comprehensive document, and look forward to the updates from the CEO as they come to light.
Thank you, Councillor Kozak. Can pass those comments on to the rest of the Ranger team.
We got Rick at the back there.
Thank you, Ranger Rick. Speaker against.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr Mayor. With all due respect, Mr Mayor, I am unable to support this recommendation, even in its amended form. A number of items I've already raised. One is demand-focused management of parking rather than demand and supply. It's very clear, it doesn't talk about supply. In fact, it says the supply is okay. And then it talks about no multi-deck car park for 20 years, despite the fact we all are aware that the information to make that decision is probably not there. So, Mr Mayor, the other one is the City Smart parking. That needs addressing. And finally, probably the most important item, Mr Mayor, is this is a 20-year plan, okay, action plan, where in my view, we need an immediate, urgent action plan and implementation of parking resolution for this city. The businesses are dying out there, and they're screaming, Mr Mayor. So I prefer to actually defer this and come back with another report that says urgent action plan for the park in the CBD. The other point I'm not sure about, I think I questioned it last week, is that whether the data that was picked up here is a snapshot of the current status of the CBD, or does it allow for reasonable or ultimate capacity there? Again, missing data. So presenting something to me, you want me to make a decision. And with all due respect, Mr Mayor, I cannot do that. I'd really like to, but I can't.
Thank you. No, I'll speak in favour of this. You just talked about businesses. We had 2 meetings with business. Every single CBD business owner was invited, and Cam and Barb, David, Ranger Rick wasn't there, but Ranger, you were. So there was a number of rangers there, and the businesses were there, and the businesses were all in agreement that we need to get something done. Their major issue right now is around people parking in bays that are set for customers, that are not customers. That's why it's indicated here some of the quick wins. There are much more things for us to consider as part of that. We can't make those decisions until we get better data on where our multi-deck car parks are going to go, where our increasing supply is going to go, what and other methods may be in, what potential other uses of car parks around the place we can utilise through wayfinding and through safe passage and lighting. They are all the things that were discussed with these businesses. There was one elected member at that, so they're aware of obviously the conversations that were had in those 2 sessions, and they were great sessions. And one of the members of that come to that session come and spoke to me today separately about this, and had a whole bunch of range of ideas, and is very excited about this change, and obviously is indicating as a new business in town and going quite rapidly. Her number one thing was that we need to educate people better on where they should be parking, and used her own example about how members in her team complain about parking. When she starts pointing out some of the parking around town that is free, They're very much happier around that situation and realising that they can park there all day and walk a couple hundred metres. So we need to educate, we need to implement some of these quick turns. It will continue, and parking, whatever option we come up with in parking, there's going to be people against it and there's going to be people for it, similar to what we've been talking about earlier. But this is an opportunity, you've just suggested, Councillor Castle, we should defer. This is an opportunity to get things going, what we know we need to occur, but it also gives us the opportunity to bring reports back, to increase that data and that missing data you just suggested. We need to get better information on that before we can start implementing what are significant decisions may be. I look forward to that. Is there a speaker against? Councillor Kozisek.
Thank you, Mayor. I just would like to applaud Councillor Turner's statements and also Councillor Broad and also your own. I think there's a huge reflection on everything that we've talked about, and having been at that meeting on Thursday about the parking and talking to the business owners, I think we all walked away from that meeting feeling that we could move forward. It's not going to be quick, and we know we don't have adequate current data, but the only way we can move forward with really good decisions is to gain some adequate current data. So I fully support that we upgrade our smart parking systems, realising that the systems that we have are no longer supported by that company, and I know the CEO has been through this route. So I just think it's a really good opportunity for us to actually acknowledge that we can do some things short-term, some things long-term, but this is a guiding document only. It doesn't preclude anything, and I think we must remember that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the recommendation. Those in favour, please indicate. And those against? 2 against. That is carried. 10-4-3. Thank you, councillors. 2 councillors there will just be vacating the room. Thank you. We've got... Okay, councillors, we have this, as I just indicated, and just so you're aware, Councillor Brown and Councillor Kozisek have got an impartial interest there. They've been trying to seek some information from a third party on whether or not they can be in the room for this vote or not, because it may well come to them at a later stage through a different process. So hence why that advice hasn't been received, and they're obviously indicating that they won't vote on this to cause any issues for a later time. Do we have a mover for this? Thank you, Councillor Turner. Is there a seconder? Councillor Broad. Is there likely to be any...
I just have a question. I'm sorry to be a pain.
Yeah, no, Councillor Stead, of course, absolutely.
When I read through the contract, I just didn't understand why we're doing it retrospectively of the contract rather than at the time of the contract. Do you have
yeah, sure. CEO, just...
So my understanding, this was done before, obviously, I got here, but there was a price agreed for lot 3, and then there was a change in the valuation of lot 3, and rather than bring that back, the decision was made to provide $250,000 in benefits, that costs that they would have to incur like this, that we could offset against that value of 250. So there's electrical upgrades that have been done, for example, that the city's done on to create the lot there, and there's still work going on there. So all of that's all part of the 250 benefit that was as a result of the change in the valuation price for lot 3. So this is simply waiving part of that, which we've already agreed to do.
Is there likely to be any debate on this item, councillors? I'll put that. Those in favour, please indicate. That's carried. Thank you. We better grab Councillor Kozisek and Brown, even though I'm closing the meeting, but do you want to just invite them back in? Yeah. Yeah. Look, there is nothing further to add. I'm not going to add anything away for the elected members to come back. I will declare this meeting closed at 8:20. Thank you for those who have joined us here in person, online, and thank you elected members for the debate and conversation tonight. Enjoy the rest of the evening and week. Thank you. I declare this meeting closed. I didn't wait.